Today's demo, we're going to talk about PX Backup as a migration tool. So PX Backup is absolutely a great backup and restore tool, but these similar workflows can be used for migration from one Kubernetes cluster to another, whether that's on-prem to cloud or on-prem to on-prem or across Kubernetes versions. Today, we're going to go ahead and do a migration of an application running on-prem into Amazon EKS in a totally different Kubernetes version. So we're doing kind of a cloud migration with a Kubernetes version change, and we'll do some validation to make sure that application is in fact running the way we expect with the data that we expect. So let's go ahead and back up our application or check out the applications in the on-prem cluster. We have a microservices application running called the Sock Shop, originally developed by Weaveworks. We're using it for this demo, and it has a number of different services like orders, and carts, and users, and has databases associated with all these. Portworx is backing all those databases. You know, there's MySQL, Mongo, RabbitMQ, a bunch of them. And so here's the application, and we're going to make sure there's data added to it. So I already have a user set up. Let's log in as this user. And if we go to the account, we can see that there's a couple of orders already placed as this user. And so these orders represent the data that we'll go ahead and validate in the cloud environment to make sure our migration was successful. We're going to go ahead and add another order. We're going to buy some Super Sport XL socks and add those to our cart and place the order. And that is done. So now we can see that there's all three orders, and we'll remember these kind of orders for validating some of the data after the migration. So we're going to go ahead and back up the entire namespace, all the databases, all the services, everything. So we click backup, we give that backup a name, and optionally you can give it a label. I'm going to say that this is cluster equal to on-prem, and I'm going to select my backup location, which in this case is S3, since that's where my target environment is. And we'll go ahead and monitor this backup operation. So we can do this in various ways. We can show the details within the UI, and all the backup information will be updated in here. We can also take a look at what we're going to go ahead and back up by looking at our on-prem cluster running 115.1 and looking at the pods, PVCs, and anything in the namespace that we're going to be running and migrating. So you can see there's a bunch of pods, a bunch of PVCs, and we use pixie-cuddle, the Portworx CLI, to verify that there's a bunch of shared and read-only volumes that are backing those services. So after a quick refresh, you can see that it is success. We can see the details again, and everything says it's backed up successfully from the origin of the on-prem cluster and the namespace of Sock Shop. There's a numerous Portworx PVCs and lots of resources in Kubernetes, such as services, deployments, persistent volume claims, etc. So now we have the option to restore this. So let's go over to our EKS cluster and verify our environment. We have 3 nodes, 115.11. Portworx is already running here, and we've already added it to our PX backup cluster, so we do have it as a restoration target. You can see there's nothing running in Sock Shop, no pods, no PVCs, and Portworx has no volumes. It's empty, right? This is a kind of a new environment that I'm testing migration for. So select restore from your backup and give the restoration a name. In this case, we're going to name it Sock Shop Restore 1 and select our EKS cluster for our restore. In this case, we don't really need options for like replacing resources or restoring to a new namespace. We do have those options, but we know our cluster is empty, so we just accept the defaults and go ahead with it. So now we can watch this in the UI just like we did the backup. We can also do a watch on the Sock Shop namespace, which we're doing here. And when the restoration starts to occur, we should see all the services like we're seeing now. And the pods and the deployments all start coming to life because we're pulling those volumes and everything back into the new cluster. You can see here in the UI, the PVCs are getting moved to the EKS cluster, and now it reports success. So now we should see all the details, meaning everything was migrated and restored successfully, including all the resources like deployments and services, secrets, what have you. So now that we can see everything's running, we want to do some validation. So if we get the service or PVCs, we should see, okay, those are our volumes. That looks good. The services are there. Our front end was running on-prem, so it was using node port. But we're in EKS now, so let's go ahead and update that service from node port to load balancer, and this will use the EKS integration for the Amazon load balancers to expose our service. That way we can interact with it to verify it is up and running and looks okay. So let's grab that load balancer endpoint and put it in our browser. Okay, and looks good, right? It looks up and running, and I'd say that our service seems to be working fine. So there's a number of different things we could do from here. We could do some validation within the UI by logging in again, or we could do validation directly through some tests or looking at the databases. So what we're going to do is check out one of the databases and to see if our data is still there, to make sure that we did in fact migrate everything successfully. So what we'll do is we'll grab one of the containers, such as the orders database, because I know I placed 3 orders, remember? So we had 2 existing and we placed a new one, so we have a total of 3. And so we'll jump in here. I think this service is running a Mongo database, so we'll go ahead and jump into the Mongo CLI and look at our databases. I think the collection is in the data database. So customer order here, and we'll grab everything that's in the customer order collection, and hopefully we'll see all of our orders. Great, so it looks like all 3 of our orders are here, right? So our username and password, obviously, it wasn't very secure, but username and the address is all fake credit card. So, but the totals look the same, look all correct, and then these are the everything that we expected to see in terms of our orders in our application. So it looks like everything is working. We validated it is in fact working in EKS, and hopefully this shows the usefulness of using PX Backup as a migration tool for various scenarios. And until next time, take care.